following the crowd is absolutely trash. It's trash. Let me tell you how I found this out and how I apply it to my life right now. I think I was in the third or the fourth, no, Mr. Allen. I was in the fourth grade. I had Mr. Allen as my teacher. And Mr. Allen taught me these two very, very important lessons. Well, he really taught me one important lesson, but then it kind of, he confirmed it later on in the school year. Me and Mr. Allen hated each other. Like, I didn't like him, and I know he didn't like me, right? Because I would ask so many questions. I always had questions for stuff, right? You just couldn't tell me, something, and I'm just going to just take it just because I'm a kid. Always had questions. So that's what really led me to this particular part in the story right here. First off, let me give you some context. Mr. Allen, this was in the early 90s. Mr. Allen, I don't know how old he was, but he was a white dude. He had I don't know if it was he had like a perm afro kind of, and he used to wear bell bottoms. This is in 92. This is early 90s. And he had his afro, he had his bell bottoms, and everybody used to make fun of him. Everybody used to make fun of this dude. And sometimes people like, Mr. Allen's my teacher. Like, who's Mr. Allen? Oh, the teacher with the bell bottoms. Like, bell bottoms was way out of style before then. So anyways, I got Mr. Allen, the bell bottom wearing teacher, and we're talking about like U.S. history, right? And he brings up, how Christopher Columbus discovered America and that whole thing, right? And everyone else, no one's saying anything. But, me, I'm going to say something. I said, Mr. Allen. I raised my hand. He calls on me. He's shaking his head. Yes, Marcus, go ahead. I said, well, how did Christopher Columbus discover something if, it's already here? How do you discover it? I don't really remember the answer that he gave me. And what I walked away from that day was realizing, like, Mr. Allen, he is authentically who he is. That's who he is. He's the bell-bottom, afro-having teacher. He's not afraid to be who he is. And then at the same time, like me raising my hand and putting myself in a situation, even though kids are shaking their head and he don't want to answer the question because he really didn't have the real answer, or he did have it and just didn't want to give it. But that let me know, like, yo, you ask questions. You're not just gonna, accept whatever someone tells you. You're gonna ask questions. You're gonna make people uncomfortable because you're asking questions. That's just a part of who I am. So as time goes on, I just said there are so many other lessons that gets taught to me and that I learned that I realized, like, yes, what I learned in the fourth grade, it really is true. This is really who I am, right? So my thing is this, right? And I heard this, I don't remember exactly where I heard it, but I recently heard this maybe like 2 weeks ago. And what they were saying was, like, if you had to have a blank piece of paper at the beginning of your life, if you had to have a blank piece of paper and a pen, and you get to write out all of the qualities that you want to have, how many of the qualities that you want to have are qualities that you have right now? And what do you have right now that you wouldn't include on the paper? Because I know a lot of people, they follow the crowd because they're insecure. They have self-doubt. They have imposter syndrome. They're not motivated. They're lazy. And all of these things are fine. But what's not fine is to stay in that repetitive cycle of having all of those things, those unwanted traits about yourself, and you don't want to fix them. 9 times out of 10, you don't want to follow the crowd either. You want to do something different. So what steps are you going to take to put yourself in a position to where you're going to get that much closer to your dream or that much closer to your goal? Because I look at it like this. Say I want to go to Miami, and I've never been to Miami, and I'm trying to figure out how to get to Miami. Well, if I'm not aligning myself with people who have been on that road or been on that route, and I'm listening to the crowd, I might end up in Omaha, Nebraska, because they're not going where I'm going. Their destination is completely different. They're following each other. They're sheep, right? Who a lot of the time they can't think for themselves. I want to have a community of go-getters. And go-getters, we're not the type of people to just sit back and then just let life pass by. We follow in crowds. We living a life less than what we want. We're not being able to go on trips, and we're not being able to have nice vacations and nice experiences and eat at nice 5-star restaurants. And some people never even don't know what it feels like to have a valet take their car. Something as simple as valet. They don't know how to, they don't know what to do. How much do I tip? What do I do? They don't know. And that's fine. But as long as we're not continuing to stay in the mindset that we're in, that's not giving us the results that we want. We got to be actively moving towards what it is that we want and further away from the people that's keeping us comfortable, really, because that's their whole thing. People stick with the crowd because it's comfortable. It's so uncomfortable to me. Like I've tried to fit in with the crowd, and I can't. Like, once you see things a different way, you can't go back and unsee it. Like, for people like me, and probably even you, fitting into the crowd is like having that game where, you know, when you're a little kid, and you had to put the shapes inside the other shapes. It's really like putting a square inside of a circle. It won't fit. Actually, the only way it will fit is if you shrink that square down so small that it can go inside of the circle. But then you're not fulfilled anyway, because now you're just a lesser version of what you could be had you had the courage to be who you really are and say the things that you really want to say and have the opinions that you want to have and move in the direction that you want to move. Go to the places that you want to go and buy the things that you want to buy. Live how you want to live. You're a smaller version of yourself, which really only cheats you. It cheats you. It cheats your neighbors. It cheats your family. It cheats your kids. Putting yourself in a smaller space to make everybody else comfortable, fitting into a crowd, having that crowd mentality. I don't want to stray too far away from the group. I don't want to ruffle no feathers. I don't care about the feathers. Like, I've always been who I am, and I'm gonna be who I'm. This is who I am. This is what I'm gonna be, and I know that this type of life is not for everybody, right? To say, hey, I'm gonna go out and I'm only gonna be able to eat what I can kill. Like, if I don't close a deal, I'm not gonna get fed. And this doesn't even necessarily have to apply to business. You can have a job and still have the same mindset. The same exact mindset. All you have to do is just switch a few things. That's it. Switch a few small things. You can keep the same mindset at a job. You don't need to have a business to do what I'm talking about or to be the kind of person that you want to be. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be that way. It's possible if you believe that it's possible. You can do it if you believe that you can do it. Is it going to be uncomfortable to break away from the crowd at first? Yeah, of course. You've surrounded yourself. You're in an incubator with other people who don't want to see you get away from the pack, who don't want to, because it's going to make them uncomfortable to see you go. That's really what it boils down to. The version that you are right now is probably making the people that you're trying to get away from comfortable, and they're just not going to want that. They're not going to want to see you go for their own selfish reasons. Because at the end of the day, you're going to continue to get what you always got if you don't change. Like, something has to change. You have to be able to break away. And if you decide, hey, I'm going to come, I want to be an entrepreneur. Can you teach me what you do? Can you show me what you do? Before we even get into that, I have to be upfront with you. And I have to tell you, this is entrepreneurship, regardless of what you see online. Entrepreneurship is a lonely game. It is lonely because once you see things the way that they are, you can't go back to seeing things the other way. Now, one of my clients was like, man, how long have you been in business? I tell him how long I was in business. He said, you know that you can never be an employee again, right? I say, yeah, more than likely I probably can. He's like, no, you can. I tried. You know, once you see things a certain way for so long, it's hard to unsee it. It's hard to go back. So if you're going to be in a crowd, make sure that you're in a crowd of people who either have or working towards having the lifestyle that you want or the things that you want or the peace that you want, whatever that looks like. It doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be, living on a certain side of town. Whatever it is that you want, surround yourself around people who want the same goals and the same mission. Because just following the masses of people, you're never going to get there, because before you know it, you're going to wake up one day and you're going to be in the middle of Omaha surrounded by a bunch of cows wondering where the beach is. But that's it for today's video. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.